So I was curious how I'd react to Tisha B'av after having just gone on a trip where I was, the focus was genocide and national tragedy and mass scale devastation. And my first reaction last night, just during Eicha, the first thing that I really felt was we should be so grateful that we have the opportunity to mourn for our tragedies and to mourn for our national tragedies, because that's not an opportunity that everyone gets. And you look the kind of, the prime example in my mind that I just learned about was in the Armenian genocide, that you had one segment of the population who was, on the move and just, had to think about survival, and you had another giant segment of the population who, because of the laws of where they lived, were not allowed to talk about what happened, for 50 years, from 1915, when the that part of the genocide started, until 1965. Then they were in the USSR, and you were not allowed to talk about national matters. You're not allowed to mourn for this thing that had decimated your population. And you also had this big force in the world that was actively trying to create a narrative, a false narrative, and erase the history. And it also makes me think, over the last year I was also learning about, a lot about Native Americans. And the in some of these tribes, where they're wiped out, they don't even know what they lost. They didn't have a way of recording what they lost, and they didn't, their traditions and their history. They know that devastation happened, and they know that they know that they experienced widespread, death and genocide. And but they don't have a way of knowing anything more than that, because it's all gone. And it's a privilege, to be, in a good way. It's an amazing thing that in our culture, in our society, in our Jewish tradition, then we do have, institutions which are geared towards helping us realize that something that terrible things happen to us, and to come to terms with that, and to deal with, to deal with that, and to relive that in ways that are productive. Um, Especially for people who has experienced as much as we had, and as much as we still do, and as much as we still will. Then that's something that is going to be necessary for us, and has been necessary for us to deal with what we've experienced. It's something we should be really thankful for. And I was thinking, like, even if we don't, even if it doesn't mean anything to us, and even if we just sit in shul and are not really thinking about anything, just to have preserved the knowledge that something did happen, that something terrible did happen. Um, it's not something where it's not a situation where you'll have a people who um, have been affected, and and are living with the results of the national trauma that happened to them, and don't even know that they experienced a trauma, and don't even know why. They don't even know why they're like the way they are. They don't even know what caused, the conflicts, that the and the troublesome state that they're in. With so many peoples, they just don't know. They are the way they are, and they see that they've become something, and they don't know why. And for us, at least, even though we've lost a lot, even, we do know why. It also struck me that the, uh, looking through Eicha, like we don't talk about the Assyrians. Like, we don't talk about, like, we don't focus much at all on, like, who did this. Yeah, and that's also so healthy. It reminds me of, like, in Hiroshima. Then, like, you go to the memorials there, they're not, like, blaming the Americans. They're not, and they don't have any ill will towards the Americans. And same, in Rwanda, they had this healthy way of dealing. This is something terrible that happened, and when they reflect on it, they reflect on how terrible it was. It's not this like post World War One Germany-esque kind of like the world hurt us and now we're all bitter and we need to take revenge and we need to assert assert dominance and get back what we lost. Like it's not that, that's a much less healthy way of dealing with tragedy and with devastation. And like it was interesting looking through Eicha and seeing just the emphasis on the tragedy in just this processing what we were feeling and what we experienced. It did seem very healthy.